Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something straightforward. How often do we begin a new journey only to give up when things get difficult? How many aspirations have been left behind? How many objectives remain incomplete because we struggled to remain consistent? Today, I want you to understand something critical. The real divider between success and failure isn't talent, and it certainly isn't luck. It's consistency. It's the determination to keep showing up every single day, even when you don't feel like it. We've all experienced that initial burst of motivation, when everything feels fresh and exciting, but then reality hits. The routine sets in. Life throws obstacles in our way. And what do? We take a step back. We hit pause. We convince ourselves we'll get back to it when we're more energized or when things settle down. But here's the truth. That perfect time you're waiting for may never come. The key lies in training yourself to keep going, even when it's tough. Consistency outweighs motivation, every time. And that's a fact you need to lock into your mindset if you truly want to reach your highest potential. Motivation is like a spark, bright, exciting, and capable of getting you started. But like any flame, it eventually dies down. What's left after that is either cold ash or a steady burning ember that refuses to go out no matter how strong the wind blows. That steady ember, that's consistency. It's not flashy, but it's dependable. And ultimately, that's what gets you to the finish line when others have burned out. See, motivation is temporary. It's tied to emotion. There will be mornings when you wake up feeling unstoppable, ready to crush your goals. But let's be honest, those aren't most mornings. Most of the time, you'll wake up with excuses waiting. You'll be tired, sore. Maybe the weather's gloomy. Maybe you didn't sleep well. On those days, motivation disappears right when you need it most. That's why you can't depend on it. You can't sit around waiting for everything to feel just right, because life doesn't work like that. There will always be distractions, challenges, and setbacks. And if you allow them to hold you back, you'll stay stuck, waiting for the ideal time that never comes. Consistency, however, doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't care about your mood, your stress levels, or the weather outside. Consistency says, we're doing this today no matter what. That's where true transformation happens, when you stop waiting for inspiration and start building discipline. It's not about feeling ready. It's about deciding that this is what you do, no matter the circumstances. Just look at the people who've reached greatness. Athletes, artists, entrepreneurs. What do they have in common? It's not constant motivation. It's the habit of showing up day after day. They've made consistency their superpower, and that's why they're at the top. They deal with setbacks just like everyone else. But they've trained themselves to push through, even when it's painful, even when it's uncomfortable, even when quitting would be easier. That's the strength of consistency. It forms habits. And once something becomes a habit, it runs on autopilot. It's no longer about feelings. It's about honoring the commitment you made to yourself. When consistency becomes part of your identity, skipping a workout or missing a task doesn't feel like a break. It feels like a betrayal, because it's become part of who you are. That's the difference between achievers and dreamers, the people who make it embed consistency into their daily lives. But let's be real, it doesn't happen overnight. It requires effort, time, and above all, discipline. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's not exciting. No one's handing you a trophy for getting up at 5 a.m. to train or staying late to finish a project. And that's okay, because discipline isn't about recognition. It's about doing what needs to be done, regardless of who's watching. Discipline is the engine behind consistency. And just like any muscle, the more you work it, the stronger it becomes. The more you show up, the easier it gets to keep showing up. And that leads us to the most underrated skill of all, showing up. That alone puts you ahead of most people. So many quit before they ever really begin. They let feelings dictate actions. But you've got to be different. You've got to show up, especially when you don't feel like it. Because those moments, those are the ones that count. That's when the separation happens between average and exceptional. It's easy to take action when you're inspired. But can you do it when things are hard? When you're tired? When life is inconvenient? That's the real test. And if you can pass it, if you can show up consistently, no matter what, you'll start building something powerful. Momentum. Every small step builds on the last, creating a force that drives you forward. And once that momentum is rolling, it carries you through the hard days. It keeps you on track because you've put in too much effort to quit now. And that kind of progress, that kind of power, is what transforms your life. But here's what you need to understand about consistency. It's not just about showing up, it's about showing up with purpose. It's not enough to simply put in the hours. You have to be intentional with your effort. Going through the motions won't cut it. You've got to bring focus, energy, and presence, even on the days when everything feels like a grind. Consistency isn't about becoming a machine. It's about being relentless. It's about striving to grow, to improve, even when progress feels invisible. And that's another thing we often forget. Consistency doesn't always deliver immediate results. In fact, most of the time, the payoff comes much later. Think of it like planting seeds. You don't see the harvest right away, but if you keep showing up, tending to the soil, watering it, nurturing it, over time, something incredible grows. The people who succeed are the ones patient enough to wait for the growth. Too many quit right before the results begin to show. They give up on the seeds they planted because nothing seems to be happening. Don't be that person. Know that consistency is a long-term commitment. It's not about quick wins or instant rewards. It's about showing up over and over again until the results arrive. That's why consistency beats motivation every time. Motivation can spark the journey, but it's consistency that keeps the engine running. That's the real divide between those who dream and those who achieve. The ones who cross the finish line aren't the most motivated. They're the ones who kept pushing through the days when they didn't want to. They've woven consistency into their routines, and over time, that repetition turns into powerful habits that carry them through even the hardest times. So when that initial excitement fades, when the spark of motivation is gone, and quitting feels tempting, remember this: it's not about how you feel. It's about staying true to your commitment. It's about having the discipline to keep showing up regardless of how inspired you feel. Because that discipline, that's what drives success. We often fall into the trap of thinking success requires huge, life-altering actions. We convince ourselves that unless we make massive leaps, we're not moving forward. But that mindset can be paralyzing. It's like standing at the base of a towering mountain, overwhelmed by the distance to the top, and deciding not to move at all. So we hesitate, we overthink, we wait. We tell ourselves it's not the right time. Fear and doubt creep in before we've even taken the first step. But here's a truth you need to hold on to. Success isn't born from giant, flashy moments. It's built quietly, through small, steady actions repeated over time. The steps that seem too small to matter, those are the ones that create lasting change. People often waste time waiting for the perfect moment, the big break, the lucky chance, the external push. But if you live your life waiting, you'll never move forward. The truth is, small steps are what lead to major breakthroughs. Imagine climbing that mountain, not by jumping or sprinting, but by taking one careful step at a time. Each step, no matter how small, brings you closer to the summit. Day by day, the progress might not seem visible, but months down the line, when you look back, the distance you've covered will amaze you. That's the power of consistency. It's not about one huge burst of effort. It's about the work you put in every single day, even when it feels like nothing's changing. It's like planting a seed. For days, weeks, maybe even months, you'll see no signs of growth. You'll water it, care for it, and still, nothing. But beneath the surface, the roots are growing deep, creating a foundation. And one day, that breakthrough will happen. That's what small steps are doing, building the foundation for something greater. Think about the success stories you admire. Those people didn't wake up one morning at the top. They climbed their way there, slowly, quietly, repetitively. While the world sees the final result, the praise, the wins, the spotlight, what they don't see is the years of unseen effort, the setbacks, the sacrifices, and the discipline it took to keep going. The truth is, those daily steps might feel boring. They might seem repetitive, even frustrating. It's not always fun to wake up early, stay up late, or do the same thing over and over again. But in that repetition is where momentum builds. One small step leads to the next, and over time, you've created a rhythm, a force. Like a snowball rolling downhill, those small actions gather strength and become unstoppable. But too many people give up before that momentum can build. They want fast results, instant gratification, the easy road. But the reality is, anything worth building takes time, effort, and grit. Real success isn't based on shortcuts. It's built on resilience and the decision to keep going when it seems like nothing's working. So remember this: small steps, taken consistently, lead to massive results, but only if you keep taking them. The moment you stop, the momentum fades, and you're back at the start. It's easy to feel disheartened when your efforts don't produce instant results. You start to question whether it's even worth it. But those are the exact moments when you have to reach deep within yourself and remember why you began. You didn't start this journey because it was simple. You started because you had a goal, a vision of who you wanted to become. And that vision won't become reality by waiting around. It comes to life through effort, small, steady, intentional effort. You need to embrace the process, not just the outcome. You have to learn to appreciate the climb, because that's where the real transformation happens. That's where you're challenged, where you learn how strong you truly are. Every small action is a chance to prove to yourself that you're capable. And when the big breakthroughs finally show up, and they will, you'll realize it wasn't one massive move that got you there. It was the accumulation of daily efforts, one small step after another, building the road to your success. And those steps, they shape you. They instill discipline, develop patience, and teach you to work with intention. If you can stay consistent even with the smallest of efforts, there's nothing you can't accomplish. Success isn't about luck. It's about being ready when opportunity appears. And that preparation happens in the quiet moments, in the unseen daily grind, in the tiny actions you take when no one is watching. So don't underestimate those small steps. Don't let slow progress fool you into thinking you're not moving forward. Every single step brings you closer to your goal. Every step builds momentum. Every step forms the foundation for the results you're working toward. You might not be able to see the destination yet, but trust that it's there. And the only way to reach it is by taking that next step. So stop waiting for the perfect time. Stop waiting for everything to line up or for someone else to tell you it's okay to begin. Start now. Take a step today, even if it's tiny. Then take another tomorrow. Then another the next day. Keep going. Keep growing. Keep showing up. Because one day when you look back, you'll see how those small steps turned into something extraordinary. Major results don't come from one giant push. They come from consistent, committed action. And if you stay the course, success won't just be possible, it'll be inevitable. When you hit that wall, that point where your body aches, your mind is tired, and everything inside you wants to quit, what will you do? That wall isn't just exhaustion or stress. It represents all your fears, doubts, and reasons you've ever given yourself to stop. It whispers things like, "You're not good enough," or "This is too hard." That's resistance. And everyone chasing something meaningful encounters it. The difference between those who make it and those who don't isn't luck or natural talent. It's the ability to keep pushing when that wall shows up. You can't avoid it. It'll be there when you're working toward a big dream, tackling a difficult project, or just trying to hold everything together when life piles on. And the only way past it is through it. But getting through doesn't require brute force. It takes resilience, mental toughness, and a refusal to quit. That wall is built from every what if you've ever feared. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if they were right about me? Doubt stacks up like bricks, blocking your path. But those fears, they aren't real. They're shadows, reflections of your insecurities. And fear, it doesn't last. Failure might hurt for a moment, but regret lasts much longer. Fear is sneaky. It disguises itself as logic, as caution. It convinces you not to try, not to risk anything. But fear has one purpose: to keep you comfortable. And comfort zones? That's where dreams go to die. Real growth, real change, real success. That happens outside of comfort when you look fear in the eye and keep going anyway. Then come the excuses. I'm too tired. I don't have time. I'll start tomorrow. We've all made them. They feel safe, reasonable. But they're just stories we tell ourselves to avoid the work. And each excuse is another layer added to that wall, making it harder to push through. So you might ask, how do you break through that wall? The answer is simple but not easy. Consistency. It's the hammer that chips away at that wall. Not once, not twice, but again and again. Every day, each time you show up, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, that's how you break through. Consistency isn't glamorous. It's not the highlight reel. It's not the big, flashy wins. It's the early mornings when you'd rather sleep. It's the late nights when you'd rather rest. It's pushing forward when no one's clapping, when no one's watching, when nothing looks like it's changing. And more than just effort, consistency is rooted in belief. You have to believe that you can break through, because if you don't, the wall wins before you even swing. If you approach the challenges ahead already convinced that they're too big, too difficult, or too impossible to overcome, then they will be. Your mindset is the most powerful resource you have, and what you believe will shape what becomes real in your life. If you believe you can push through, you will. But if you doubt yourself, you'll likely give up at the first sign of adversity. When that inner voice starts shouting, and it will, you'll face a choice: listen to it or push back. Because that voice, it's just another piece of the barrier. It's your fear, your doubt, your excuses, and all of it is trying to convince you that it's fine to quit. But your drive, your passion, your hunger for something greater, those need to be louder. You have to drown out the noise with your own willpower. Every time you stretch beyond your comfort zone, every time you prove to yourself you're capable of more, you weaken that wall. And with each breakthrough, you grow stronger. Eventually, you start to see that the wall isn't as real or as solid as you once thought. Each setback you push past, each obstacle you overcome, chips away at it. And one day you'll look back and realize that wall was never really there. It was just something you built in your own mind. That wall is a test. It's there to challenge how badly you want your dream. It's there to measure how far you're willing to go, how long you're willing to endure, how deep you're willing to dig when everything inside you is begging you to stop. Most people won't get past that point. They'll accept their excuses. They'll give their fears permission to win, but not you. You're still here. If you were like everyone else, you'd have already turned around, but you haven't. And that alone is a powerful first step. So when you come face to face with that wall, and you will, remember this: it's not there to block you. It's there to see if you're willing to fight for your dream. And if you are, if you show up with grit, consistency, and an unshakable commitment, then that wall doesn't stand a chance. Resistance falls when it's met with relentless effort. The pain you feel along the way, the struggle you endure, it's temporary. It's the price of growth. But the pride and fulfillment that come from breaking through, that stays with you. That's what makes it all worth it. So don't stop. Don't back down. Don't let that wall be the thing that ends your journey. Tear it down. Prove to the world, and more importantly to yourself, that you have the strength to see this through. Because everything you want is waiting on the other side. When we picture success, it's easy to focus only on the final outcome. The dream job, the financial reward, the recognition, the feeling of accomplishment. That vision is what gets us out of bed in the morning. It's what gives us purpose. But there's something many people forget. That final result, the reward at the end, is only a small part of the whole story. The real magic, the real transformation, happens during the journey. From the time we're young, we're trained to focus on the results. Get the grade, win the prize, land the opportunity, reach the milestone. But if all we ever do is chase the outcome, we miss the deeper value of the process that gets us there. It's in the process that you're stretched. That's where your character is formed. That's where you gain the tools, the lessons, and the strength to truly succeed. Not just once, but over and over again. The world we live in is built around instant gratification. We want things fast. We want hacks and shortcuts and easy fixes. But real success doesn't come from shortcuts. Greatness isn't something you stumble into. It's something you earn through daily effort, through consistency, through the grind. The outcome might look shiny and impressive, but it's the process that shapes you. Think of the result as a moment, a snapshot in time. Yes, it feels amazing when you reach a goal, but that moment passes quickly. What stays with you is everything that led up to it. The early mornings, the late nights, the sacrifices, the failures and setbacks you overcame, the growth you experienced along the way. That's what makes the outcome meaningful. That's what creates lasting success. The process is where you build resilience, where you sharpen your mindset, where you learn how to stay strong even when the destination feels out of reach. Anyone can stay motivated when the finish line is close. But the real test is who you become when the goal feels miles away. That's when the process becomes everything. That's when you learn to trust yourself, to keep showing up, to keep doing the work, day after day, even when you don't see the payoff yet. Because when you commit to the process, the result becomes inevitable. It's no longer a question of if, just when. Many people lose motivation because they don't see results right away. They put in effort for a few weeks, maybe even a few months, but when the progress isn't visible, they assume they failed. They think something must be wrong because the outcome hasn't shown up yet. But that's not how success works. It doesn't arrive on a fixed schedule. It doesn't operate according to your timeline. It demands patience. It demands trust in the unseen progress. And this is where consistency becomes your greatest ally. Consistency requires you to keep showing up, even when the results are nowhere to be found. It demands that you continue to move forward, step by step, even when the road ahead is unclear. It's about doing the small things again and again with intention, believing that each action, no matter how insignificant it may seem, is bringing you closer to the life you want. It's not glamorous, it's not exciting, but it's the quiet force behind every meaningful success story. It's what separates those who simply talk about their dreams from those who actually reach them. When you shift your focus from chasing results to embracing the process, something powerful happens. You begin to grow in ways you never expected. You build discipline, you cultivate mental toughness, and you start forming habits that will carry you for the rest of your life. You begin to recognize and celebrate the small wins, not because they're flashy, but because they represent progress. Just showing up becomes something you're proud of. You start to realize that the end goal isn't the only thing that matters. It's the journey that transforms you. The process is where your character is forged. It's where you meet your limits and then exceed them. It's where you find your persistence, your inner strength, your true desire. When you commit to that process fully, you become unstoppable. Not because you never face obstacles, but because you've fallen in love with the climb. You've found purpose in the work itself. The outcome becomes a bonus, not the reason you keep going. What matters most is the daily grind, the effort no one else sees. That's the real beauty of the process. It's invisible to the outside world. People don't see the sacrifices you make behind closed doors. They don't see the hours, the setbacks, the self-doubt. All they see is the final result. But you know the truth. You know that the outcome only exists because of what you endured, because of what you built piece by piece, day by day. And that knowledge, that awareness, gives you something more valuable than the result itself. It gives you pride, a deep sense of accomplishment that no one can take away from you. So when you catch yourself becoming impatient, when you start fixating on the end goal, take a breath, step back. Remind yourself that the process is where the real magic happens. The process is where you become the person capable of reaching that goal and handling everything that comes after it. You can't control every outcome. Life is unpredictable. Things won't always go the way you planned. But what you can control is your effort, your commitment, your consistency. You decide how you show up. You decide how much of yourself you're willing to pour into the process. And when you consistently give your best, when you fall in love with the daily effort, the outcome will come. Maybe not when you expect it. Maybe not in the exact form you imagined. But it will come. And when it does, you'll be ready. Not because you hoped for it, but because you prepared for it. You earned it through every choice, every sacrifice, every step. So don't obsess over the finish line. Don't let the outcome be the only thing that fuels you. Chase the habit of being consistent. Chase the growth that comes from effort. The process is what shapes you. It's what elevates you. It's what molds you into someone capable of not just reaching success, but maintaining it. Because when you fully commit to the process, when you surrender to the journey, the outcome takes care of itself. And then there's accountability. A word that cuts through the noise like a sharp edge. It's not flashy, it won't get applause, but it's absolutely essential. Without it, even the most inspiring dreams remain just that, dreams. We all start with excitement. We map out our goals. We write them down, visualize the destination, maybe even take the first few steps. But then life interferes. Distractions show up. Laziness creeps in. Excuses start to whisper in our ears. Before we know it, the passion that once burned bright becomes buried under a pile of delays and missed chances. Why? Because when no one's watching, it's easier to let things slide. It's easy to say, I'll do it tomorrow. It's easy to believe that skipping today won't really matter. But here's the truth. It does matter. Every day counts. Every moment is a brick in the foundation of your future. When you skip today, it sets a pattern. One day turns into 2, then a week, then a month, and suddenly you're back where you started. Not because you lacked the potential, but because you didn't hold yourself to the standard you set. That's the role accountability plays. It's the silent force that keeps you aligned with your goals, especially when no one else is watching. It's what pushes you to act when no one is keeping score. It's what separates temporary effort from long-term commitment. We all face those internal battles. Wake up early or hit snooze. Push through the fatigue or take it easy. Finish the task or leave it for tomorrow. No one else may notice if you take the easy way out, but you will. And that's what matters most. True accountability starts with you. You're responsible for the promises you make to yourself. You have to decide that your dreams are more important than your comfort, that your goals are worth more than your excuses. And that kind of honesty with yourself, it's not easy. Because accountability means looking in the mirror and acknowledging that you are both the architect and the barrier to your own success. It forces you to take full ownership of your path. And that's not something everyone is willing to do. But if you hold yourself accountable day after day, even when it's hard, even when it's quiet, even when no one's clapping, then there's no limit to what you can achieve. Because you're not just chasing goals anymore. You're becoming the kind of person who never stops growing. And that, more than any result, is what real success looks like. It's easy to point the finger at your circumstances, to say the odds were stacked against you, that life got in the way, that things just didn't go as planned. But deep down, you know the truth. It's on you. Your choices, your habits, your discipline, they're in your hands. When you fall short, when you skip the work, when you let things slide, there's no one else to blame. And as uncomfortable as that truth is, it's the kind of honesty you need if you ever hope to be consistent. If you ever want to break through and actually accomplish the things you've set your heart on. Holding yourself accountable begins with setting standards that you refuse to negotiate. These aren't casual preferences or soft goals. They're non-negotiables. Clear, solid expectations you set for yourself that do not bend to convenience or mood. Whether it's waking up at a certain hour, completing a task no matter how small, hitting the target you committed to, your standard becomes the line you never cross. No excuses, no explanations. It doesn't matter if you're exhausted, if the day was chaotic, or if things got tough. Your standard stands firm. It becomes your compass, your internal code, and you follow it whether anyone's watching or not. One of the simplest but most powerful ways to hold yourself accountable is to write your goals down. When you put pen to paper, you turn vague intentions into tangible commitments. A goal written down is no longer just a passing thought. It becomes a visible promise, one that stares back at you and demands action. Post them somewhere you'll see them daily, on your mirror, your fridge, your phone's lock screen, your notebook, whatever keeps them front and center. Let those goals remind you why you started. Let them push you on the days you feel like giving less. Because when your goals disappear from sight, they also start fading from your mind, and eventually from your behavior. But when they're in front of you, when you revisit them constantly, they remain alive. They become present, urgent, and real. But accountability doesn't end with writing things down. That's just the beginning. It's about action. It's about who you surround yourself with. The people in your life either push you forward or pull you back. You need people who challenge you, who won't let you make excuses, who will call you out when you start slipping. These aren't people who criticize for the sake of it. They care about your growth. They want to see you win, and they're willing to have uncomfortable conversations to make sure you stay aligned with your vision. We all have days where we lose momentum. We all hit moments where we'd rather check out. But having the right people in your corner can reignite the fire when it starts to flicker. The environment you choose matters. If you're constantly surrounded by people who settle for average, who make excuses, who don't challenge themselves, that mindset starts to rub off on you. But when you're around people who take ownership of their lives, who push their limits and hold high expectations, your standards naturally rise. You want to be around individuals who live with purpose, people whose very presence reminds you to keep leveling up. And here's what's even more powerful. Accountability flows both ways. It's not just about others holding you to your word. It's about you showing up for them too. When someone else is relying on you to show up, you gain an extra layer of responsibility. And sometimes that's the push you need. Still, the most important form of accountability is internal. It's the kind that happens in silence. The kind where you stand in front of the mirror at the end of the day and ask yourself the hard question: did I do what I said I would do today? Did I give it my best? Did I stay consistent? And when the answer is no, and because some days it will be, you don't hide behind excuses. You don't justify or sugarcoat it. You own it. You take responsibility and you figure out what needs to change tomorrow. This kind of honesty is rare, but it's also what separates high achievers from those who just talk about what they want. You can't lie to yourself and expect to grow. You can't cover up your missteps and expect to reach your potential. But when you start holding yourself accountable, truly accountable, something begins to shift. You develop trust in yourself. You start believing that when you say something, you'll follow through. That belief, it's powerful. It builds momentum. It strengthens your confidence. And with that belief, you become someone who doesn't just set goals. You become someone who keeps them. Accountability creates self-respect. It tells the world, and more importantly, tells you, that your word means something. That when you commit to something, it matters. That's integrity. And that integrity, more than anything, is what turns dreams into reality. It's not easy. It demands discipline, effort, and consistency. But it's worth it. Because at the end of the day, the only one responsible for your success is you. And it starts by holding yourself to a higher standard every single day. Now let's talk about something that too many people run from: failure. We're taught to fear it, to avoid it at all costs, to see it as evidence that we're not good enough. But the truth? Failure is not your enemy. It's not some giant obstacle meant to stop you. Failure is a necessary part of the process. It's one of your greatest teachers, but only if you're willing to learn from it. Here's the reality. If you give up every time something doesn't go your way, if you throw in the towel at the first sign of resistance, you'll never get anywhere. Every time you stop short because of failure, you rob yourself of the lesson it had to offer. You miss the insight, the growth, the breakthrough that comes from working through the setback. Because failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of the same road. It's a mile marker on the path to becoming who you're meant to be. Failure tests you. It asks, do you really want this? Are you willing to get back up when it all falls apart? Will you stay consistent when you feel like you're falling behind? If you can say yes, if you keep showing up in spite of the pain, the mistakes, the stumbles, then failure becomes fuel. It becomes the foundation you build your success on. So stop fearing failure. Stop seeing it as a reason to quit. Start seeing it for what it really is: feedback, growth, a step forward disguised as a setback. When you pair failure with accountability and consistency, you become unstoppable. Because no matter what life throws at you, you don't fold, you don't retreat, you keep rising. And that is the mindset that leads to greatness. Every person you admire, every expert, every master of their craft has faced failure. They've fallen short, doubted themselves, and questioned whether they were on the right path. The key difference? They didn't stay down. They didn't allow their failures to define them or dictate what they were capable of. Instead, they embraced those moments, learned the lessons within them, and kept pressing forward. And look, I know, that's easier said than done. Failure doesn't just sting, it cuts deep. It can shake your confidence, leave you feeling lost, and make you second-guess everything. That pain, it's real. That frustration, it's valid. But so is your strength to rise again. So is your capacity to overcome, to grow through the challenge, and not just go through it. The thing we forget all too often is this: failure isn't final. Not unless you decide to stop. Not unless you let it be. Failing at something doesn't make you a failure. It simply means you found a way that didn't work, a path that needs adjustment. The only time failure becomes permanent is when you throw in the towel. And make no mistake, you will fail at times. But when you do, you get to choose. Will you let that failure define your journey, or will you use it as fuel to drive forward? That's the real question. It's not if you'll fall, but how you'll respond when you do. Will you allow the disappointment to paralyze you, or will you let it refine you? Will you back down, Or will you let the struggle push you to new levels of strength? There is an undeniable power in failure, but only for those who are willing to see it not as a punishment, but as a tool. Too often, we let the fear of failing prevent us from trying. We become so anxious about the idea of getting it wrong that we miss the chance to grow. But failure is a mirror. It reveals where we're lacking, where we need to build, what needs sharpening. If you can stand tall after a failure, if you can dust yourself off and take the next step forward, you'll come out on the other side stronger, more prepared, and more determined than ever. Consistency in the face of failure. That's what separates people who talk about success from those who actually live it. It's easy to stay motivated when everything's going right. But what about when it all feels like it's falling apart? What about those times when you've done everything you could and the result still slips through your fingers? Those moments define you. That's where your commitment is tested most and where your growth potential is the highest. If you can remain committed through that kind of adversity, if you keep showing up even when your confidence is shaken and the outcome is unclear, then there's absolutely nothing you cannot achieve. Failure is not a dead end. It's a detour. And while detours might take you off the path you originally planned, they often lead to destinations you never imagined. Think back on your life. How many times did something not go the way you wanted, only for it to turn out better than you could have expected? That's failure at work in disguise. In the moment, failure feels overwhelming. But with time, with distance, you'll often see it was setting you up for something far greater. One of the biggest mistakes people make is letting failure become part of their identity. But you are not your mistakes. You are not your missteps. You are the person who gets back up. The one who refuses to let adversity be the end of the story. That is your power. That is what success demands. Persistence, resilience, and above all, consistency. Think about the leaders, creators, and visionaries you admire. Do you really believe they got where they are without ever falling? They faced loss. They were rejected. They doubted themselves. But what they didn't do was quit. They didn't let their story end at the setback. They used those failures as building blocks. Every time they got knocked down, they rose again, with more clarity, more drive, and more wisdom than before. That's what makes the difference. Every failure is an invitation, a chance to adjust, to learn, to refine your approach. But you only get that opportunity if you stay in the game. If you give up after the first hard hit, you'll never know how much further you could have gone. Failure is a moment, not a destination. And if you can stay consistent, if you can keep showing up, learning, adjusting, every step backward becomes the setup for a stronger comeback. That's the real power of failure. It's not something to fear. It's something to embrace. It teaches you. It strengthens you. It sets you up for your next big leap. So when it comes, don't run. Don't shrink. Face it. Use it. Let it mold you into someone more capable, more focused, more unshakable. Because failure, when looked at through the right lens, is not your enemy. It's your ally. It's part of the journey that leads to success. Not away from it. And it's how you respond to it that makes all the difference. Staying consistent when you fail, that's what separates the average from the exceptional. It's easy to keep going when everything's smooth, when progress is visible. But it takes a different kind of strength to keep showing up when the world feels like it's caving in. That's where your character is forged. That's where your legacy begins. If you can stay the course, even when you're falling, even when the results are slow, even when the path seems uncertain, you will look back one day and realize that every setback was actually a setup. Every failure carried you one step closer to your purpose. Every misstep brought you closer to greatness. So the next time you stumble, don't let it be the closing chapter. Let it be the turning point. Let it be the spark that ignites something extraordinary in you. Keep going. Keep pushing. Keep believing. Because on the other side of your most painful failure might just be the moment that changes everything. And remember, consistency is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It's the tool that transforms your vision into reality. But it doesn't come without cost. It requires discipline. It requires a relentless belief that what you're building is worth every ounce of effort. From this day forward, make consistency your personal standard. Decide that no matter what, win or fail, you'll keep showing up. You'll keep doing the work, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, Because in the end, success doesn't go to the person with the smoothest ride. It goes to the one who refused to quit. Stay consistent, stay committed. Your breakthrough is on its way.